Welcome to the Limitless Podcast. The Limitless Podcast is centered around exactly that, being limitless. Hunting, fishing, fitness, nutrition, adventure, disabilities. What may be covered during the Limitless Podcast will be, well, limitless. Stay tuned for this episode of the Limitless Podcast. Limitless Podcast listeners, this is your host, Aaron. It's been a couple of weeks. I've slowed down on my release velocity since the beginning of last hunting season, and returning to full-time student status. I almost killed the show, but I've decided that I'm going to continue producing content, but it probably will not be on a weekly basis. I would look at a more bi-weekly or once a month, at least until I get my feet wet as a 52-year-old student enrolled in a university. But that will not change my direction as far as who I have on the show, what kind of content we're going to cover on the show, and then also my time committed to the outdoors and the outdoor industry. But with that said, I want to talk about a couple of our sponsors that are still holding on with the show, even though I am reducing my velocity in content release. So Hunting Day Coffee, as you can see on my hat, and as most of you know, that when you watch YouTube versions of the podcast, I typically always have a cup of Hunting Day coffee in my hand. So they are still sponsoring the show going into 2025. That is a 10% discount on any order. That is Be Limitless 10 at their website. I have On Point Adventure Foods. They are hands down my favorite freeze-dried meal company currently on the market, based out of Pennsylvania. That is Be Limitless 10% off any order of their freeze-dried food products. I have Vortex Optics, my primary and only choice in glass. In fact, I have my rangefinders being sent into them. It's boxed up downstairs. Had them on the phone today. Have to replace the rubber eye cup on my Vortex razor. I love working with those guys. They don't deal directly with the customer, so this is a weird one, but it is 25% off any Vortex product at eurooptics.com. That is VTXLMTLS25. Then we have Wilderness Athlete. That is 20% off any order through Wilderness Athlete. That discount code is BeLimitless20. And then I have the Love Sauce Hot Sauce. That is a small boutique hot sauce. Most of their sauces, they're pretty spicy. It is a veteran Navy buddy of mine. That's 10% off any order of $12 or more, and that's Be Limitless 10. And do have at least one new company in the hopper, but I don't want to let that out yet. That will come out potentially in the next week or so. But with that said, and remember, I receive zero kickback from any of those purchases, any use of those codes. I work with these companies because I use them on a daily or monthly, weekly basis. I'm always in the field with them, and I want to put good codes in the hands of fellow outdoorsmen. So again, there's no kickbacks to me for using those codes. They're purely for your benefit. But with that said, do have one of the show sponsors on today. Have Kevin Guillen from Wilderness Athlete. He is going to join me today. Kevin, thanks for hopping on Limitless Outdoors, and welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's been working with you guys for a couple of years now. Worked with you guys a little bit before the Sprocket and Chubbs Outdoor podcast came to an end. Started Wilderness Athlete. You guys jumped on board immediately. That was a year ago. And but before that, Wilderness Athlete has been a sponsor for the A3G initiative nonprofit that I founded 4 years ago. The second year you guys jumped on board, and you've been a part of the A3G now going into year 4. Super excited and happy about that. But more importantly, I use your products all the time. There are products that I use every single day, and then there are products that I use in functional fitness and that I use in all of my backcountry adventures nationwide. But
Mhm.
why don't you tell us when, where, and why, like the five W's of wilderness athlete?
Oh yeah, there's a long backstory there in terms of the win. So Wilderness Athlete started in 2004, um, founded by Mark Paulson. When it started, it was the only and it was the first supplement company, nutrition supplement company, developing products for outdoorsmen. And I think it's important, to understand that that's a recent thing, right? In 2004, there still wasn't anybody else developing content, information, formulas for people that wanted to push their limits physically, mentally, outdoors. There was a lot of different businesses out there set up for traditional athletes. Your football players, basketball players, and while there aren't, I wouldn't say that there's this wide difference between what the body needs during a football game and what the body needs during a backcountry mule deer hunt. There are some differences with certain products. There are some very specific products that Wilderness Athlete has developed that are really only pertain to people in the outdoors. Um, but really, it's more of a messaging focus. It's more of content. It's more of a company that has its mind in the field with you. Here in this office, where we all eat, breathe, and sleep hunting and the outdoors. And when we develop products, we develop anything, we do so with that mindset. So um, I think that's always something that in today's world, I think it's fairly common now to see that, well, there's a niche supplement company for almost any type of athlete, any type of discipline. But that wasn't always the case, and that's a fairly recent development, And so, um, we're very proud of who we are, and we know who our customers are, and we know what our core is, and we stay focused on that. So, yeah, since 2004, our team has grown and changed quite a bit. We are based here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, which is in the Phoenix Valley. So I'm not sure, most people don't know about it, but it's just east of Scottsdale, a little ways. Um, it's a great place to live. I love this place. It's a great place to test a hydrate and recover type of product. Obviously our summers are pretty brutal, so we do have the opportunity to really do a lot of field testing of an electrolyte drink. And yeah, we're staying in tune with what our customers need all the time, and it's a great business team to be a part of.
That's it's funny. I've been through Arizona several times. Done quite a bit of training down in Eloy.
Okay, yeah,
There's
yeah,
that
very familiar.
incredible drop zone down there in Eloy, and it's a
Hmm.
lot of military contracts go through there for some pretty extensive training. So I've been through that area several times. It's a
Yeah,
shame when I was running through there that I wasn't familiar with Wilderness Athlete because I certainly would have stopped by.
yeah, it's funny. Our town, I think most people, we're largely e-commerce based, right? So we're most of our business and customers interact with us on our website, email, on the phone. We don't have this grandiose storefront, but we do in our building. We our sister company or partner company is Outdoorsman's, and so we have a lot of people under this one roof from Outdoorsman's, which is an optics retailer, and we manufacture tripods and other glassing accessories. And then we have a magazine, which is Western Hunter Magazine, which we operate out of this facility as well, which is a lot of the same internal team. Um, but our we do have a little bit of a showroom, a little bit of display for Wilderness Athlete, and it's fun to still have people that are passing through on their way to their hunt, or we've got a lot of wildland firefighters that come through here and they stock up on Wilderness Athlete product before jobs, things like that. Um, so it's a pretty we're nestled into a pretty central place where if you're getting out of town to hit the mountains to hunt, or if you're traveling from a different state, you tend to come really close to where we're at.
Okay. And what has been your progression with the company?
Oh yeah, so um, when I came on board, it was the team itself since 2004 has gone through a number of different changes, ownership wise and team structure wise. And so when I came into the picture about 10 years ago, we were really operating out of Outdoorsman's, and then it was at that point when I and my wife I was employee number one. She was my boss. She wasn't my wife at the time. Um, and it was really just, us. And, I was everything from customer service to shipping orders, receiving, product, um, marketing. We really started from like a pretty grassroots level. The company had a long history. Um, and it had kind of taken a long hiatus, of several years where there wasn't really a central team or a very like robust marketing digital platform to keep customers engaged. We did have a lot of customers in the country that had been using our products for a long, long time, but it had kind of been in sort of suspended animation for a while. When my wife and I sort of took the reins over, we really it was just about answering the phone, answering emails, treating customers with respect. That's always been one of our biggest focuses is our customers. We're very customer centered people. We listen to what our customers need and want. And when we develop products now, we always do it with our customers in mind. So over the years, we've grown, right? So we've been able to bring on quite a few people into this team that have specialized in marketing, digital marketing, graphic design. We have a 22,000 square foot warehouse down the road that we have a fulfillment team in now. We've got industrial sales. We've got a pretty robust team now. It's allowed me to focus a lot more on product development. So myself and my wife are owners of this company. So you wear a lot of hats when you're in that position. I say like, yeah, I focus a lot on product development and market strategy and kind of community growth, like where I think we need to be putting a little bit more of our emphasis. But at the same time, you got to also sometimes answer the phone, and you got to work trade shows. You got to set up the booth. You got to do a lot of things that are kind of outside your traditional job description. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It keeps you really in touch with, the business, your customers, and all facets of the business.
So from the outside looking in, through emails, and like social media content, and then being at the Western Hunting Expo, what has it been, a month now? 3 weeks?
Yeah, just about.
We missed each other, but I interacted with multiple members of your team, and from those three different lenses, you guys have a great team and a pleasure to communicate, interact with, and be around.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's great to hear, because when we hire people here, that's kind of one of the things we look for in people the most. It's not necessarily your skill set. It's, are you personable, and is your heart kind of in the right place for what we look for? If you can't engage with customers, if you don't have like a passion for understanding, your customer and what the lifestyle is all about, then it, might not be the best fit. I think in today's world, you have a lot of options for just about anything you want to buy, including and especially nutrition products. There's supplement companies are a dime a dozen. It wasn't always that way in this space for us, but it certainly is now. It's a pretty crowded marketplace. And, so we just stick with what we know, which is our people. And we stick with treating people with respect and relationships. We have relationships with our customers that have been going on for 10, 12, 14 years. And it's because I think people, appreciate doing business with people that listen to them and understand their needs. We're of like mind to a lot of people that we call customers. And, that's just the way we like to go about it.
Yeah. What the outdoor industry, what is it saturated with? Broadheads?
Yeah.
Nutritional supplements now?
Yeah.
And coffee. I
mean,
it's, Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be a very tough competitive market to be in.
And clothing. God,
Yeah.
I'm always floored
Yes.
at the number of.
Yeah.
So we already know there's like a million clothing companies out there selling you technical clothing, but every year there's another one that shows up, just like supplement companies. There's just,
Yeah.
I'm always surprised that there are people out there that are willing to take on that type of fractured marketplace and try to carve out a niche. And more power to them. It's the American dream, right? If you've got a vision and you've got a plan and whatever, like let's see how it goes. But yeah, there's definitely some saturation.
There is. So let's talk a little bit about products.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you have a favorite?
Oh,
It's a tough
it's
question, right?
it's nearly impossible for me not to say hydrate and recover, and it's hard because uh, there's a lot of products that I use on a daily basis, but hydrate and recover is really a staple in my life and in a lot of people's lives, not just because of one benefit. Hydrate and recover, when we developed it, and we've made some additions to it and improvements over the years, um, updates with the formula, dictated by what a lot of more modern research is showing. But hydrate and recover, it really comes into such play in my daily life. I'm a pretty active person. I work out almost every day. But certainly, when you're outdoors, hiking a lot, whether you're hunting or you're training for a hunt, or if you're a trail runner, or you're just, a hiker, I mean,
Mhm.
there's no replacing the benefit of a really complete electrolyte drink like we have there. Um, and so when you're talking about marketplace saturation, electrolyte drinks is really like,
It
that's
is.
that's where it is. I mean, there's a lot of companies that's all they do is electrolyte drinks. Um, and what kind of separates hydrate and recover from a lot of the things you'll see out there is that we are very in tune with actual scientific research. And I know that's probably something people hear from every company, right? But there are a lot of formulations out there that are very based on that, like, more is better concept, right? So if I give you 3 times as much salt, then that must be a better electrolyte drink, right? If I give you a different form of this, then it must be better. Our formulas across the board, but especially with hydrate and recover, really the foundation of them is to operate on a very like synergistic basis. So we have a really good balance of sodium, potassium, and magnesium, and not an abundance of any one to the point where it's problematic. You'll find some electrolyte drinks that you'll have hundreds of milligrams of sodium, which is great for the right person in the right context. That's definitely problematic for some people that are living more sedentary lives. If you handed me a drink that was 500 to 800 milligrams of sodium, I better be sweating my butt off, while I'm drinking that, because the rest of your diet on a daily basis is pretty full of sodium. That I think people generally make the assumption like, well, this has a lot more sodium, so it's going to do a lot more for me. That's not the whole picture. There's benefits to magnesium and potassium, and the way that those all play together that really deliver the right type of hydrated cell, both mentally, physically, that translate to physical performance and recovery. So hydrate and recover, I'd say, is quite literally like uh, the best product we make. It is one product that I can say literally has saved lives. We For the past 6 years, we have sold a lot of hydrate and recover to in industry. So blue collar construction workers, utility workers, companies that are buying this product to give to their guys that are in very heat intensive, dangerous jobs. And where heat stroke, heat illness, or just a lapse in judgment or a lapse in reaction can mean the difference between life and death. Hydrate and recover has been the preference of a lot of companies that are switching away from the traditional formulas like Gatorade or Squencher or those sorts of products. And it's made a huge difference statistically with those companies in the rate of heat related illnesses or incidents that they're seeing on the job site too. So that's definitely the one I got to choose.
It's one of my favorites. The Hero Mix. I was a big fan of the Hero Mix for a while.
Hmm.
Um, but from a what really led me away from the Hero Mix itself was I did not want to pack a Hero Mix bag for every single day I was going to be packed in. That's just for me. That's just it's space for me. And
Sure.
so I just started mixing my own.
Hmm.
You can get the two different buy the two different tubs, and
Hmm.
I would just mix my own. I would
Hmm.
get the little sticks. There
Hmm.
was for one hunting season, I would purchase one hero bag, and I would
Yeah.
take that with me, drink it day one, and then every day that I would just mix it. It had the little,
Yeah.
I would just use it over and over and over,
Yeah.
and
Right.
then I just switched to mixing my own and my own Yeti.
Yeah.
And really,
Hmm.
what led me to doing that was on a deep winter backcountry hunt that I went on. I
Hmm.
I mixed my my sticks together, and then I
Hmm.
boiled it in my Yeti and I drank it hot
Oh yeah.
to try to warm my core. And once I
Yep.
did that, I never went back to buying the hero bags again. And because it
Yeah.
just gives me the liberty to drink it warm or
Sure.
cold if I want to.
Yeah. I drink our hydrate and recover. I haven't done like the Superman mix hot, but hydrate and recover hot is one of my favorite ways to drink it outdoors, especially,
Yeah.
in like midday, especially those really cold winter hunts when you want to drink something that's refreshing, revitalizing, but the heat you can't beat it. My favorite flavor to do hot is strawberry pomegranate. But our we have got a couple flavors that they almost seem to take on like a whole new flavor when you heat them up, and they're so good. They're I wouldn't say tea, but kind of tea like when you have them hot. Yeah, it's a great way to drink them, and that's like what you said about the hero bags. That's exactly what I suggest folks do. Is like if you're going out for 5 7 days, living off your back, bring one or two of them maybe, and you reuse them. The rest of the time, bring your stick packets with you and
Mhm.
just use that as your dedicated bottle. Because then you don't have to make anything in your Nalgene bottle, or you keep that as like water, so it doesn't taste funky after the a couple mixes of your powders.
Yeah, it's a great product. Again, it's a staple.
Yeah,
I drink one of them or both of them every single day.
yeah, yeah. My wife and I are pretty religious about it too.
Are you? So
Yeah.
I'm a good stuff fan.
Right.
Do you
Good.
want to talk? You want to talk about the good stuff?
Sure. Yeah. It's funny. Good stuff. If you were to look at like our analytics and just sales performance, hydrate and recover is always number one. Good stuff is always right there in that top three or four products too. Um, so good stuff is simply it's just really a different. It's a delivery system. It's a packaging option for our multivitamin, our high performance multivitamin, our omega 3 fish oil, and our complete probiotic. So, those are formulas we've had for a good long while. We've updated those as well over the years, but you can always buy them in bottles. But the reality is, those are those daily
Mm-hmm.
consistency products that you need to be consistent with. And if you travel a lot, or you just live life on the go, where you're leaving early to go to work, and that tends to be where people forget about those staples in their life. They don't really. So having them in those daily packets like that, which is what comes in the good stuff. It's 30 daily, individual celled packets. It makes life just easy, and it makes it easy to remember to take them rather than having to have three bottles with you at all times and remember to use them. So, for us, one of the like again, kind of getting back to listening to our customers, that was a good example. I mean, we have, if you look at our product line as a whole, we have a lot of products that are really designed for helping you achieve high performance, but almost more products that are really designed at helping you shore up your foundational health. Those three formulas there are obviously very foundational health based products, and that almost, I mean, that's a far more critical component to that whole model than just pre-workouts and things of that nature that are about high
Mm-hmm.
performance. You can't push a body as far if its foundation is not very strong. you can give it high octane gas to make it feel and operate as good as it can, but if it doesn't have the foundation that helps with, digestion, metabolism, inflammation control, gut health, all of the litany of things that those cover, you're really going to be underserved. So uh, allowing our customers to be able to take those products that they were, using and loving, they're very popular products, on the go with them and have them at the ready more conveniently, it was just a no-brainer. And even when we did it, we didn't really know how well it was going to perform, because it was like, yeah, people could just buy the bottles like they always have, but it seems to have been filling a problem for people, and it's one of our favorite products too.
I so I have it on auto ship. So
Yeah.
just for listeners to know, Wilderness Athlete has an auto ship program. So my good stuff is on auto ship. I don't even have to think about it. Every month, I get notified that I have another bag of 30 of them coming. Um, and when I'm packing for a hunt, I have every day's meal. This is very common now in the backcountry world. You put all your meals or your daily meal in a Ziploc bag. So it's
Yep.
all of my daily intake is going to be in that bag. So because of being amputated, I deal with a lot of swelling issues. A lot of inflammation in my limb. So turmeric. I take turmeric every single day. So I put my turmeric pills in a little Ziploc pouch. I put my good stuff in that pouch. I'll typically take like a tart cherry gummy. I throw that in that little Ziploc pouch. So I have all of that every day in my daily Ziploc worth of nutrition. It's so easy. I keep them in my truck. I have them in my carry-on. Have them in my bathroom. It's just I have the good stuff everywhere. So if I get in a rush or I happen to forget to grab my vitamins after I'm brushing my teeth, I have a spare sitting in the truck. Or if I'm traveling, I can take them when I need to. Very handy. Really like it. It's been very successful.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear you say that you take those like on in the backcountry too, because when that clicked for me, it really changed a lot of things about the way I felt and operated on multi-day, backpack style hunts. Before, and you probably hear a lot of people focus on like your macros. What kind of calorie content are you taking with you on a big hunt? Um, but the way I was living and I've always lived, at least more recently, is your 365-day approach out of the field is, you take your vitamins, you shore up your foundational health. Those are the ways that your gut health feels at its best, inflammation feels under control, immune system function. But then I would go on a hunt and I would kind of leave all that at home, and I could be out there for 5 to 9 days, whatever the case may be. And all of those micronutrients, all of those little things that was kind of helping my operational, health feel as good as it was, when those kind of became missing, things didn't feel quite as right. Like, frankly, and maybe this is an overshare, but like things like bowel movement or
Mm-hmm.
sleep, those are two things that
Absolutely.
really impact the way people feel on a backpack hunt. You're already eating kind of weird backpack foods. You're sleeping in a tent. You're living differently than you live most of the year. So your body's already going under a fair amount of adjustment and stress because of that. It only made good sense for me to start bringing a lot of those micronutrient components that were really helping, things like bowel movements, things like sleep, my gut health, just mental cognitive clarity, all that stuff. So I didn't have to like adjust to too many things. And now, like you said, it is fairly common now too for people to think about those things in the backcountry, and it has made a big difference in the way my energy feels in the outdoors too.
It's energy, it's longevity and recovery, right?
Yeah.
This podcast is going to morph from the nutrition aspect of it to applications in hunting. I'm almost positive, and then we're going to shift
Hmm.
into how to use wilderness product front into an endurance, physical endurance topic, because this is really what led you and I to jumping on this recording, is because I want
Hmm.
to use wilderness athlete in my marathon training this year. But what people don't understand, and I'm going to reflect on on your, like, if you're going to do like a big endurance event, there, a
Hmm.
key thing is when it comes to race day, you don't want to change what you've been doing for all of your training up
Right.
to that point. So if you've been using a particular hydration mix through all of your training, don't switch that up on race day. If you've been using
Yeah.
a specific electrolyte or a specific morning routine, if you eat a bowl of oatmeal and two hard boiled eggs before you go out for a long run, well then on race day you should probably eat a bowl of oatmeal and two hard boiled eggs before you go, hit the line with your bib on. It's the same. It's the same way with your electrolytes. If you go out and if you're training hard, let's just use elk hunting because everybody wants to go on a backcountry elk hunt. Me personally,
Hmm.
I want to go on a backcountry turkey hunt, but we can talk about that later. But if you're training for that backcountry hunt and you
Hmm.
go out and you hammer a really hard functional fitness event for an hour, and you're drinking your wilderness athlete, right? So right now I've got a bottle of brute force. I have my good stuff. I have my own hero mix that I have at the ready that I'm drinking. If I'm doing all that stuff every day and I train hard for an hour, right? And I'm doing all those things. And then when it comes time for the hunt and I leave my good stuff at home and I don't bring my electrolytes with me. Now, granted, I don't take brute force with me when I'm on a backcountry hunt, but if I leave all those things behind and you nailed it, now I've left all of my home cooked nutrition at home, all the
Yeah.
variety of things that I get to eat, my fresh vegetables. It's a huge one, fresh vegetables. And my
Yeah.
question is, we haven't talked about green infusion yet, but how many people take a green mix with them into the backcountry? Because what are we eating? We're eating freeze-dried food. And some guys might take some freeze-dried fruit, but when you look at your freeze-dried meal, how many vegetables are in your freeze-dried meals? Not a lot. So where are you getting those fresh vegetables? Not a big deal for a single night or maybe 3 nights. But let's talk about hitting that 5 day mark. Let's talk about
Hmm.
hitting that 7 day or longer mark. And you don't have
Hmm.
vegetables. What are you replacing? Where are you getting that source from? And so, again, the green infusion, we can talk about that. But those
Yeah.
things, your sleep patterns, way different because you're not, when you hammer a really hard workout for an hour, or maybe you go out and you throw on a 50-pound pack and you go out and you hit 5, 6, 8 miles with the pack on. When you come home,
Hmm.
you can do hydrotherapy. You can hop in your ice pod. You can get in a mineral
Right.
bath. You can stretch. You have your roller with you. You can, you do all those physical dynamics that propel us forward as an athlete, a wilderness
Hmm.
athlete. And then you get to sleep in a really nice, comfortable bed, right? We
Yeah.
don't get to do
Right.
that in the backcountry. So what you just like hammered a very important topic of, if you cut out the littlest things out of your routine that you've been training with for months for this really important hunt, and then you just leave it all behind and you're hammering yourself all day long. It's not a 1 hour fitness event, it's all day long. And then
Yeah.
you sleep on a pad in a little shelter. It changes everything. So bringing the little things with you is so important, and a lot of people overlook that. They look at their optic, they look at their rifle. A lot of guys that they're not worried about. And this is, again, I don't want to monopolize this conversation, but you see guys preparing for a big backcountry hunt, and they'll post out, what's the cheapest ammo that I can get for my whatever caliber it is. It's like, that's the one thing that's going to connect you to your success with that animal at the moment of truth. And you're going to look for the cheapest ammunition that you can chase. It's like, take all those things of importance and make sure that you're taking that to the fight. And your
Yeah.
nutrition is huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think if we could like impart, and if I could impart like one thing onto more people, and I'm almost like, this is almost like self-reflection. Like if I could have told myself something when I was in my early 20s or late teens when I was working out a lot, trying all sorts of different supplements. And if I could tell myself anything, it would really be to focus on consistency
Mm,
and discipline. All too often we see like the main characteristic of it's probably just human nature is to kind of focus on intensity, right? Like the same goes with training, daily health, life, anything that you're looking to become good at, better at, the best at. There's like, let's just go as hard as we can. Let's go 110 miles an hour. Let's be intense, which is great. Don't get me wrong. Like, you got to have some intensity in life and in training and in your diet and in your whatever your approach is. But without consistency and the discipline to stay consistent, it doesn't get you anywhere. And
mm-mm.
that's what I've seen the most with, like, when I look at our customers as a whole, and I look at like, my father-in-law, who's one of our partners in Wilderness Athlete, he's, 60, 61. I look at a lot of our longest customers and a lot of the friends we have in our companies that are guys in that 40, 50, 60-year-old range. And they frankly, they can outpace and they can outwork a lot of the young guys that I know as well, especially for those longer hunts, those hunts that take place on day 6, 7, 8, 9. Um, and I think a big part of it is because their dedication and their commitment to being consistent with their routines and the discipline it takes to do that, those hold true on, when stuff gets hard and things get tough. Um, it really makes the difference, and how that translates to what we were talking about with nutritional products. Consistency with the things that you put in your system. Consistency with the way that you fuel and optimize your performance and health. That's what really makes the difference in the long run. It's not always about how hard you train today. It's about how hard you train today and how hard you can keep training, or how long and how many days you can string together doing the same thing. Because and I've been kind of going through this myself. We just had our second child 6 months ago, and so my routines with the gym and diet have been really challenged lately. And so my mindset going into the gym, and my mindset with working out and being active in general, has really mostly been, let's focus on consistency right now, Kevin, not intensity. Because if I go as hard as I possibly can today, I might not have what I need in the gas tank to show up tomorrow. And right now, that's my biggest challenge, is being consistent, because sometimes there's circumstances in life when, child's up all night or work things are demanding the next morning where I can't get to the gym maybe the next day. So, um, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that whether you're talking about nutrition at home, nutrition in the backcountry, the way you train, the way you work in your office and your job, the way you like build your relationships with people, consistency is really the key. Um,
Mhm.
and I think sometimes you probably spend your whole life honing and sharpening that discipline to be consistent. But that's, I think, what separates people who are able to operate at their best at the later stages of a hunt. That's what separates the people who are achieving those things that, we all, aspire to achieve, and the people that don't. Consistency seems to be king, and it always seems to come out ahead.
Let's get back. I want to cover one thing on hydration really quick before we move on from that topic. Are you educated on what a hydration deficiency does to brain function?
Yeah, fairly well. Yeah,
So talk
yeah,
about that, because that's important, and a lot of guys
yeah,
don't understand it or realize that
yeah.
when they're dehydrated, what impact that has on their mental capacity.
Yeah, it's actually just simple numbers, and I'm not going to try to repeat all the numbers. But when you look at how much of the human body is made up of water, and what that means, and like how big of an impact a deficiency, and not only water and fluid, but the electrolytes that are carried through that water. you realize how big of that impact like lies in your brain and in your central nervous system. There is a huge impact and correlation between hydration and cognitive function, cognitive
Mhm.
performance. We we actually tend to be more geeks and focus almost to the point where we're probably annoying some people about hydration, because it is such a big factor in how you perform mentally, more so than caffeine. Caffeine is a very effective and strong neurotransmitter. I love caffeine, and I think it is a very great tool. But hydration is more important with when you're talking about reaction time, mental acuity,
Mhm.
uh, memory formation, memory, like being able to recall things, attitude, mood.
Mhm.
There's a long list of things that literally just the rate at the way your cells are hydrated, how that plays a role in that. We partnered on a study with a human performance lab at BYU. This is years ago. I think this is probably 7 years ago or so, where we looked at human performance in terms of reaction time in test subjects that were receiving nothing at all, test subjects that were receiving an electrolyte formula, our hydrate and recover, and a test subject that was receiving nothing but like a caffeine supplement without the robust like electrolyte profile in it. Reaction times were by far and above most improved and most noticeable in the electrolyte group. Um, so, showing up to any event, any sport, any part of your life hydrated is absolutely the best thing you can do for
Mhm.
yourself when it comes to a mental perspective. Um, yeah, I kind of mentioned briefly earlier the division of our company that we have that really has focused on getting hydrate and recover into, these companies that uh, supply their workers with an electrolyte drink. They're working outside, they're driving big trucks, they're working in construction, they're climbing high line electrical poles, uh, all sorts of different lines of work. And hydration is a real deal for them. It is not about just what tastes good and what sounds good. It really is the difference between life and death for a lot of these people. On a corporate level, these companies, I mean, it's very expensive for them to deal with people that get hurt in the job,
Mhm.
or worse, die on the job, and people's lives get ruined. I mean, it can be a very serious thing when somebody has an accident because of you know heat related, heat stress, heat stroke, um, not reacting in time, not seeing something. Um, Years ago, there was more of a mindset of just tough it out, dude. Tough it out, and work
Mhm.
through it. When people would maybe be struggling with some fogginess or some, you know, symptoms of dehydration. And we know better now. We have the resources and we have the information more available to us now to realize that we don't have to just grit it out. And there's really no way to just grit it out. It's not about being tough. It's hydration is a simple function of the human body, and there's really no two ways about it. So, yeah, the correlation between hydration and electrolytes and the things firing in your brain and in your muscles is vast. It's a pretty strong connection.
I spent hundreds, if not thousands, of hours in a chem suit and a gas mask. And
Mm,
being the guy downrange working or being the guy uprange as a supervisor with guys downrange working, you really learn the importance of hydration because you're just dumping fluids inside those suits and that mask.
hmm
And watching the decline of mental capacity, communication, reaction times, thought processes,
hmm
um, how frustration levels. It's it's so important. And from a hunting aspect, when you're in the backcountry, you might be in a scenario where you have limited water supply and you have to manage your water intake for a 24-hour period. And how you use that water and what you are adding to your diet, your nutritional plan to maximize that fluid intake so that you sustain that mental aptitude and that performance level. So again, that moment of truth. Um, how many times have you botched up a hunt or a stock, or you haven't paid attention to the wind, and you're
Hmm.
standing there, you're busted by a an animal that you'd be happy to put a tag on, and you're standing there asking yourself, why did I do that? That was so stupid. Well,
Hmm.
it's if you're dehydrated, well, there's a key player on why you potentially just did that. Because when you're fully hydrated and alert and focused and positive in the game, you never would have
Yeah.
made that mistake. And a lot of
Yeah.
guys never put that correlation between hydration, their mental function, and how important hydration is to that key. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. Like your attitude about things, your confidence, your awareness to
Yeah.
things, like your awareness to your surroundings, all of that begins to decline when you begin to suffer from dehydration of any degree. It can be really precipitous once you start bringing into like heat stress and
Mm-hmm.
other elements. So that obviously compounds the rate of dehydration, but your body is managing all sorts of different elements at any one time, especially if you're dealing with altitude. We deal with people all the time, and we talk with people a lot that they come from sea level or a low altitude, low elevation environment, and they're going to come out west and hunt for the first time at 7, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 plus feet. Um, and they want to know, how can I help? What do we have that can help them manage those symptoms of altitude sickness? And honestly, a lot of it comes down to hydration. There are a lot of symptoms that you're going to have to test and see and feel and see how your body responds. There's not a simple cure button for altitude sickness, and unfortunately, a lot of people experience it differently. But one commonality between anybody, whether it's managing the symptoms or kind of avoiding it altogether, one of the things that really plays a part in that has to be there is hydration. And, your cells need to have the electrolytes in order to function the way they need to when your whole system is under, a stress of a low oxygen environment.
So speaking of altitude and altitude
Hmm.
sickness, let's talk about wilderness athlete and altitude sickness.
Sure. Yeah. So going back to like one of the first things I was saying when we were talking about, as a supplement company, what are that's focused on outdoor athletes and hunters specifically. Altitude Advantage is one of those products that is really designed very specifically for outdoor athletes. Football players, baseball players, people that are traditional athletes between the lines. Um, aren't really going to have a need for an altitude product. It's just not a part of that dynamic. But most of your listeners probably well understand. Whether you're coming from a low altitude environment, or you want to hunt, a couple times a year up at 10,000 feet. Uh, High elevation can mean something different to a lot of different people. Like some people that live at 4,000 feet maybe have a different adjustment than the next guy going to 9, 10,000 feet. So what we have developed with Altitude Advantage is certainly not like there are some products out there that are prescription based, and they are very invasive. You have to speak with a doctor about them, that really help you deal with altitude sickness. That's not what Altitude Advantage is. Altitude Advantage is a very herbal based, botanical based formula that helps your body, really nourishes your body through that acclimatization process. The way I simplify it, I guess, is if you were Aaron to go live up at 12,000 feet, for 2 weeks, eventually at the end of the 2 weeks, your body is going to begin to go through the process of adjusting to that environment and adjusting its oxygen properly, and the red blood cells properly, to where you start to feel normal. Eventually you acclimate. It takes a different time period for everyone, but when you're going up for a hunt, you don't have that much time. We
Mhm.
want to do everything we can to hit the ground running and feel as good as we possibly can in the shortest amount of time possible. So we have things like ginkgo biloba extract. Ginkgo biloba extract is really one of the most like key ingredients in there that has shown to increase the rate of red blood cell production in your body. Um, essentially your body is dealing with what it's like to live in an environment with much less oxygen availability. It's much less, much fewer oxygen molecules that exist in the air above. I think you see a real big decline. I think it's above 6,500 feet, and it starts to go. It's kind of a core. What do you call that relationship? Where the higher you get, the less oxygen is available. So it gets worse the higher you go up. Simply put. We have a lot of vitamin E in there as well, vitamin E and vitamin C. Vitamin C is really key when it comes to dealing with hypoxia. So hypoxia is, essentially just a lack of oxygen. But when you get hypoxic cramps and hypoxic inflammation, that's a result of not getting enough fluid to certain joints. A lot of people will complain of stiff joints, just stiff muscle function. You just feel cramped up when you're at altitude. It can help with that. But that again goes back to, hydrate and recover. We have 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. And there's a lot of things in hydrate and recover, which also play a role in delivering the right fluids to your tissues and to your joints. So it's a lifesaver type, not a lifesaver, it's an insurance policy type product from one guy to the next, and even in the same individual, which really is what makes this kind of an awkward situation for people to manage. I've talked to guys and women who say, man, I've been hunting on the same mountain. Let's just say it's 9,000 feet my whole life. And last year I went up to the same damn place that I've camped, and all of a sudden I have altitude sickness, and I've never struggled with it before. And it tends to act that way. I don't know whether it's cumulative or if it's just the human condition and how your body's aging and how you respond to things, or maybe it's someone's diet. I think there's a lot of those things at play, but it's not always the same every time for every person. So we always urge people who are going to be going into an environment that's outside of their comfort zone, outside of an elevation they're familiar with, to start using it. Buy it. It's a good policy. It's a good insurance policy to do what you can to make yourself feel as good as possible, because the alternative is, you could be up there, maybe you spend 10, 12, 20 years, trying to draw this tag. And you don't want to be stuck in your tent because you're nauseous and dizzy and you feel like crap. And that's really what, that whole formula is all about.
Yeah, so I've used Altitude Advantage 2 out of the last 3 years, and the first year I had zero issues, 0.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, However, I landed in Idaho Falls in the evening, stayed the night in Idaho Falls, and then we drove to our trailhead the following day, and we didn't leave the vehicle until the following afternoon. So I had a few hours to start that acclimation process. I was hydrating very well through that process.
Yeah.
This last September, I I flew into Salt Lake City, and within 5 hours, I was at the trailhead in Southeast Idaho. I had not
Mm-hmm.
hydrated the same, and we booked it up the mountain, and we pitched at over 8,000 feet. Now I live 30 minutes from the Atlantic Ocean. I live at sea level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was trying to hydrate that day. We weren't sure on where our water sources were going to be at where our first pitch site. We knew that there were water sources there, but we did not know what we were going to find last September. And so we loaded up with water for the trek in, but I was not consuming a ton of water as we climbed. And it at 11:30 at night, I made the call. We'd never even made it to the pin that I had on Onyx for our first pitch site. I was intoxicated, nauseous, headache,
Mm-hmm.
dizzy, and
Yeah.
I knew that I was getting hit with altitude sickness, and
Yeah.
I knew it was of our best interest to just pitch shelters and get some fluid in us, some food in us, and lay down. And
Yeah.
the next, and I was on Altitude Advantage, but the key for me was the rebound. The next
Hmm.
morning when I woke up, I was ready to go. I
Yeah.
wasn't hungover. And I really do attribute that to having that you call it the insurance policy that I was ingesting. Had I not been
Yeah.
doing, I don't know what I can't tell
Hmm.
you what it would have been like if I wasn't using it, but I can tell
Yeah.
you what it was like because I was using it. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't gamble on
No, yeah, it's not worth it. Every every season, there's a handful of people that will pay surprising amounts of money to have us overnight a bottle into some remote town where they're at because they forgot theirs at home, and they've
it.
had this experience in the past, and so they realize that they, whether it's just a comfort of mind or it's truly making a huge difference in how they feel, or a combination of both. Um, it is a good insurance policy, and
Yep.
at the end of the day, we do this. We hunt and we go outdoors because we want to experience it, and you can't experience it, enjoy it, if you're not feeling good. It's just like it really takes the wind out of the sails. So you want to feel as good as you possibly can, um, physically, mentally, from all those perspectives. I personally, I know the altitude to the almost the foot, that 7,100 feet, where my body starts to respond to altitude. Um, and I know that because every year we do a hike in the Grand Canyon where we go from the base of the North Rim to the top of the North Rim, which is 5 miles. And I think the base of the North Rim is somewhere slightly lower than 2,000 feet. You're somewhere around 1,800 and 1,900 feet. And you go all the way up to 8,100, almost 8,200 feet in 5 miles, which is a pretty rapid rate of ascending.
Mhm.
And right around 7,100 feet, I start to get these hypoxic cramps in my hamstring that I can count on. And the first couple years that I did this hike, I never even thought to use altitude advantage. And then after the second year, when I realized it was like the same damn switchback where I felt those same cramps and feeling of nauseous and headache, that I was like, I'm going to start using it. And I've used it ever since. And it has been a big difference for me, for sure. Um, but there's a lot to the whole conversation of altitude, acclimatization. That's a mouthful of a word to say, but exposure, getting used to certain exposure, being conditioned to,
Mhm.
a lot of different things can help. Um, it's funny though. There's a lot of things that we, as in science, that we don't know about how to completely impact it. So it's a good insurance policy.
It is. So
Yeah.
let's talk about employing wilderness athlete into the realm of an endurance athletes training and or competition.
Hmm.
I you mentioned earlier that for nutrition that almost any company can be used in any form of fitness or activity. Um, you know, I've used a lot of different nutrition supplements, all the way back to when power bars first came out. When I got into triathlons after losing my leg, I didn't run marathons. I didn't do triathlons. I did not do any endurance running until after I lost my leg. But
Hmm.
being in the service, I used power bars a lot. My earlier life in hunting, when power bars first came out, they were one of the first big labels. But I used honey stinger quite a bit when I was a
Yeah.
triathlete, and
Hmm.
I've used a lot of the different gels, a lot of the goos. Science and sport was what I used when I really got into ultras, and
Hmm.
and that partly I used a lot of their electrolytes, their powders, the electrolyte powders, but for actual long distance days, they have it's a water based electrolyte pack, so it's really easy to stick
Hmm.
into a running belt or your running vest,
Invest. Hmm.
and getting those supplement sources. I've used base salt. Have you heard of base salt?
No. Mm-mm.
So it's a little tiny tube, and it's like it's a granule electrolyte form. and it's very,
Okay.
very high in sodium. So you lick your finger, just rub it on your skin, get your fingertip
Mm-hmm.
wet, and it's a little tiny tube. You just take the cap off and you shake it, and you'll get the sodium granules on your fingertip, and you just lick it,
Mm-hmm.
and you just learn
Oh,
like how many shakes do I need to get the sodium
huh.
content that I need. If I'm hitting straight water from my hydration vest, or if I'm hitting a water source or a water stop, and I don't want the Gatorade because people are still using Gatorade at a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of events, right?
Yeah.
Which to me is useless, but it's maybe it's better than nothing. But it's a lot of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting a whole lot of sugar. How
Yeah.
many shakes of my base salt tube do I need? Um, I want to going into this year and getting back to running distance again with my wife, because I
Mm-hmm.
already have all of my wilderness athlete products. I want to
Mm-hmm.
incorporate that into my endurance training this year, for running.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
you have some experience with that. So, how do you incorporate wilderness athlete into your endurance?
Yeah, there's a few little tricks and hacks. I think I don't know if they're tricks necessarily, but products that come into play for me a lot. We added a product to our line a few years ago called Rescue Hydration, and it's an additive. Yeah, glad you have some. Yeah,
It's one of my
so
favorites. Yeah.
you add that to hydrate and recover. So um, we need to always remind people of that because without fail, there's still a lot of people who drink that by itself, which is still great. But the intent of that formula is to be added to hydrate and recover. And what that does is fortifies the electrolytes. It almost doubles the sodium potassium content, but it also adds some unique ingredients like astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is a very powerful, very potent antioxidant that helps your body mitigate and manage stress, environmental stress, physical stress. Um, that's one of the keys I think that I've noticed in my experience in more of like an endurance type event. So I'll give you a little bit of a snapshot of the way what my experience is with endurance events. So we do the Grand Canyon hike, the rim to rim to rim, and actually, we're doing it at the end of April. We always do it like right at the end of April, and it's a 47.5 mile hike with just over 21,000 feet of elevation change. We do it, and the goal is we just do it all in one through hike, so we don't stop for any period of time to camp or sleep. We, stop for water and snacks, of course, and adjust shoes and blisters. But we start at midnight, and we don't stop until we're done. The goal is always to try to do it under 24 hours. And so really one of the biggest battles, I mean, there's a lot of battles, but one of the biggest battles is you're going into this type of thing with everything on your back. We carry, I use a vest, fairly large compartment vest. Um, but you're pretty much operating almost the whole time in a calorie deficient state.
Mhm.
You can't possibly consume enough calories to be operating at a surplus for any really meaningful period of time. Um, so really, what it begins to boil down to is a dance, a really good balancing act of your electrolytes and your calories. The timing of those is really critical, and just how your body responds. When I got into doing this, I've done it seven times now. When I got into doing this, it was really I wanted to just become a I wanted to test myself, but I wanted to do this to be more confident in my backcountry hunts. So I didn't feel like there's some sort of distance or mountain or place to get to that was kind of too intimidating, and I wanted to have the confidence that I could achieve those things. But really, how you get that is through something like this is learning how your body responds. And I've done this with we always, years ago, it would be a big group, 15 or so of us doing it. Now it's, closer to like 5 to 6 to 7 or 8 of us doing it. But it's interesting to see how everybody experiences the challenges of that day and that hike differently. And I say hike, it's kind of a hike and jog and run some of the stuff, but hike most of it. The electrolytes is critical, right? So hydrate and recover, I end up always drinking 5 or so of those a day. And with rescue hydration. I ended up adding that to my hydrate and recover at least twice a day. But even in that amount of electrolyte consumption, I'm still supplementing with like a salt pill. I use like salt stick pills or chewables. Um, the amount of sodium that your body is going through is pretty evident when you just look at the salt that you're losing in your sweat. I mean, you have salt rings on your shirt, your hat, your back, your vest, and it really becomes apparent to how well your body responds to it when you feel that difference of taking some salt and when it has it and when it doesn't. You know, you definitely feel a jolt of energy, more elasticity, and more spring in your step, more endurance. Like it just that's what I love about doing an event like this is you get this like very short uh, response period between what you put in your body and what you get out of it. So it's just such a great feedback loop of like, this is how my body likes carbs right now. This is how my body likes fats and what it's going to do with it. This is how it likes simple sugars. This is what it's going to do with sodium. And when your body's in that depleted state and you're operating in your, you know, you're constantly moving and you're pushing yourself at a high level and you're dealing with, you know, elevation and heat and sun and, you know, all sorts of different stuff, you get that really rapid feedback and understanding. So, hydrate and recover is really kind of the lifeblood for me in that thing, but I should say electrolytes in general are. And you know, I also want to make a fairly clear statement about hydrate and recover. The development of hydrate and recover, there are products out there that are designed by people who what they do. They are endurance athlete people. That's their whole foundation of their business is ultras, and their formula might more accurately represent what is more perfect for that person in that event. Hydrate and recover represents what we think everyday athletes and people who want to live on a mountain need. Doesn't mean it's not great for something like that, but I'm not going to be the person that's going to tell you that hydrate and recover or all of our wilderness athlete products are the end all be all of what you need to go do an ultra marathon or something like a Grand Canyon hike. Because if you looked at any one of our packs, and a lot of the people that work here and stuff go do this, we have products from all sorts of different companies. You know, it's not about just using. We're always testing new stuff. We're seeing what our bodies need and how we respond. Um, and you know, so like I said, I use salt packets. I use like salt pills. Once we came out with the rescue hydration, it really improved how hydrate and recover performs in that context with more electrolytes that your body's consuming and needing. One of the other things that we add in rescue hydration, we have aloe vera gel powder in there. And the sole purpose of that is to mitigate nausea. So rescue hydration, its sole purpose was to help with severe dehydration symptoms, heat stroke, and to prevent, you know, those types of moments. When people get really dehydrated and on the ropes, it tends to nausea sets in, and then almost anything that hits their stomach, they vomit back up, compounding the issue. Aloe vera gel powder does help soothe the stomach, calm down nausea, and in the Grand Canyon, when you're eating constantly, I mean, you eat your way through that thing, and you're drinking constantly. Without failure, is going to be a period in which your stomach starts to feel funky, right? Because that's not how you live. You're up for over 24 hours.
Mhm.
You're moving constantly. You're eating more than you've ever eaten, you know, throughout the year. So having that aloe vera gel powder in there does help kind of soothe the stomach through some of those rougher moments. But you know, I'd say hydrate and recover is key. Um, Another product that I always bring a handful of servings with me and on hunts too is our meal replacement shake. And I just take scoops out of the tub and put them in those small Ziploc bags. You get 200 calories, which is a very weight efficient, calorie efficient way of getting 200 calories in your system with minimal effort. And when I say effort, I mean digestive effort. You know, 200 calories in powder form broken down into a shake, and the way that our formula is built to digest rapidly is much less energy in your system to get that glucose and get that going through your system than it is to break down 200 calories in a protein bar form, a hard state form. That thing you got to freaking chew. Your stomach's got to break it down. It has to go through a lot more process before it begins to impact your performance. So meal replacements, definitely another one, altitude advantage. And then of course I stick with my daily stuff as well. I'll typically stick with my, in that context, with my complete probiotic. Complete probiotic specifically, I say that because, like with long extended backcountry hunts or a long marathon type event where you're eating a bunch of weird stuff, staying regular from a bowel function standpoint is really helpful. Being able to, keep that system moving is critical. So, those are, I guess, a handful of the ones that I've leaned on the most.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah. And then, our bars, they're seasonal for us, but our bars are great. High calorie. One of the things I was going to say too about our meal replacement shake that I forgot, we add MCTs to those. So medium chain triglycerides, which a lot of folks may be familiar with. If you're not, medium chain triglycerides are essentially just very energy rich fats. So it does result in that form of a fatty acid, results in the greatest energy produced from its breakdown. There's long form, medium form, and short form chained fatty acids. Medium chain fatty acids just result and yield the greatest return of energy. So it digests really well, and calorie, per calorie, it carries with it the most energy. So it tends to be a very, stick to your ribs, get a lot of gas and power out of it type of shake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
is there anything else from Wilderness Athlete that you want to talk about?
I think we covered a lot of ground, but I think the one takeaway that I would, I guess, say is that for anybody listening or interested in our products, to give us a call if you want to have any sort of discussion to figure out what the right product is for you, or nutrition is not a one size fits all thing. Everybody's got different sensitivities, different goals, and we really enjoy being able to communicate and work with our customers on dialing in exactly the right product that we have for them. If there's some ailment you're dealing with or hurdle or obstacle you're dealing with, maybe we've got a couple products that you haven't realized that could help digestively, or with joint inflammation, or what have you, whether it's in the gym or in the field. So I would say don't hesitate to give us a call. We have a great customer service team that knows our products really, really well because they use them every day. They get out, they're active people. They're very in touch with our customers and what our customers' needs are. So we take pride in that. And I think in a lot of cases, people tend to not want to call and ask stupid questions or talk to some just candid customer service person in some far away corner of the world. And that's not how we handle things at all. Our customer service offices are right upstairs. Ethan, Caitlin, and Kalena, they're all right there. And whether it's an email or call, we always want to help. So that would be a great first step.
Well, I tell you something we didn't talk about, but I'm going to throw it out here on your behalf, is your apparel. You guys have some awesome hats, hoodies. Like my wife's, I wear Badlands and Wilderness Athlete pretty much every single day. And she's like, you have a whole lot of other clothes. Just, your apparel line's fantastic. And,
Thank you.
and the other interesting thing about your website is you market a couple of other brands for the backcountry enthusiast outside of your own brand. I am very partial to On Point Adventure Foods. They're just a wonderful company. But before I discovered them, I was using a lot of Heather's Choice, and that was driven by your website because I was always going to the Wilderness Athlete website to get my supplements. She was there, and she has some really, really good meals. So there's other options on the Wilderness Athlete website that are geared towards the Wilderness Athlete. So check out, if you're going to go get hydration mixes, don't just stop there. Make sure you check out the entire page, all the different pages that are on the Wilderness Athlete website, so you're not missing out on some other great products.
Yeah, great advice.
Where can they find you guys?
So wildernessathlete.com, simple as that, is our website. We've got a ton of information there. Each product page is pretty well informed on the science, the formula. So it tells you a lot about the product. And then our Instagram is just at wilderness_athlete, I believe. You can always reach out to us there as well. You know, our guys are great about engaging there, but contact us at wildernessathlete.com is our email address. So there's a lot of ways to get a hold of us. And, you know, I think that's what I would always encourage people is just don't be shy, because that being healthy and, you know, overcoming obstacles is just the nature of life. So, you know, we've all been there, and that's what that's we're in the business of, is helping people. So give us a shout.
Kevin, I really appreciate your time. And again, for the listeners, you know, I'm 52 years young. I'm missing a leg, and I use Wilderness Athlete every single day. I do not go into the backcountry without it. I truly rely on it. It's awesome product. So if you have not used Wilderness Athlete, you need to go give it a try. With that said, Kevin, I'm going to close out the show like I do every time. Be limitless, man.